All right, everybody, welcome to our Week 6 Thursday show. We're coming at you live on a Thursday, mostly due to I'm in a wedding this weekend. A lot of life events over here, But when you guys start paying me to do this out there in the YouTube world, I'll start showing up every weekend. How about that? So, Rob, I'm joined here by Rob. How are we doing today, man?
What's going on, Nick? It's been a tough 7 days, and I think I said the same thing to you last week. It's just been very cold on the showdowns lately. So trying to get to work here tonight, see if we can get some winning plays for the people, and even put some cash in my own pockets.
Yeah, there we go. Well, the good news is Russ Wilson's not on the slate. We might not see him for a while. He's got a pretty bad hamstring injury. Um, I mean, um, I refuse to believe that Russ is broken. I refuse to believe it. So we'll kind of jump in with that. Let's start right away with a little bit of a recap of what we saw last week. Maybe go over some of our player pool. We won't spend too much time because I know that people want to. We're a forward-looking podcast, so we need to make sure that we're always moving forward. But are you worried about Russ? If he comes back, they might sit him for a little bit. If he comes back, you're going to be interested in him. How are you feeling about the Broncos and Russ in general?
Dude, I think really don't know what to think. I want to believe that it's just the coaching has been so bad, but in that game last week, I mean, he made a lot of bad throws to some wide open receivers. That offense just appears to be broken. I don't know if it's coaching or if it's Russ, but that team is too talented to be performing the way that it is, and they have such a good defense that's giving them opportunities to get the ball back and score.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to think the same as you, that like he can't be broken, that they're going to turn this thing around. But we're going into week 7 now, and we still haven't seen it. So I mean, that's an offense I'm probably fading until I see otherwise. But how about the rookie tight end there? First name Greg
Yeah,
Olchich?
yeah, it's the second coming of third leg Greg. Shout out to Greg Olson, 7th Floor Crew for those out there that know what I'm talking about. If you're under the age of 18, don't go and listen to that song. Do you know what I'm talking about? The University of Miami 7th Floor Crew.
No, I don't.
It was like Santana Moss, Greg Olson. They did like they lived like on the 7th floor of their like dormitory, and they called themselves the 7th Floor Crew. It made possibly the raunchiest rap song of all time. And Greg Olson's rap name is Third Leg Greg. So I'll let the people kind of run with that on their own. I won't get into it explicitly on this, or we'll have to put the not safe for work tag on this.
Now they have something to look up on YouTube when they stop watching this.
Yeah. So Greg Dulcich, the second coming of Third Leg Greg, 76% snap share, relegated our friend Albert O to the bench. Keep an eye on him, especially dynasty players. Like, I think he's going to get traded. Just doesn't seem to be a great fit. Weird that like the narrative on him is that he's not good at blocking, and that's why he's not seeing the field on a limited amount of snaps. Very small sample size. Albert O is PFF's 6th best graded pass blocking tight end. So when they do give him the opportunity to block for the run and the pass, run blocking tight end. When they do give him the chance, he's doing okay. I kind of err on the side of like all of the Broncos problems. I think the simplest explanation, I know you're a scientist, right? Occam's razor. The most simple explanation is that Nathaniel Hackett is probably the unproven bad factor in this whole situation. We've seen Russ Wilson be good. We've seen Albert O be good. It's probably has something to do with the coaching staff. So I'm excited for when Nathaniel Hackett gets canned. Much like the Prime Minister of the UK stepped down after only about 3 or 4 weeks being at the helm, I think that it's time for Nathaniel Hackett to follow suit. There's a little bit of current events for the people as well. So we're touching on all the bases today. But moving on from the Broncos, keep an eye on Greg Dulcich, keep an eye on Albert O. That kind of recaps the last showdown slate. Neither of us had a really like a great time with that. I actually think I had like a pretty solid finish in one of the tournaments, but nothing to write home about. Moving forward, recapping also the $1 million winning lineup was a weird one. And we kind of want to highlight it. Rob, what do you think? Like when you see this, how does someone land on this? How do we land on it? Because I'd like to win $1 million.
I mean, if you look at it, I mean, these are all like decent plays. So it was a Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase stack. And Jamar Chase, he was the highest owned player on this lineup, right around 15%. And I actually did build a one-off lineup with the Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase stack with a run back of Alvin Kamara, which this lineup also had. So I was like a third of the way there. But just kind of seeing that low ownership for Joe Burrow and knowing that him and Jamar Chase haven't gone off yet and they were going into the Superdome. And I think the reason that I wanted to play this lineup is because I had heard that Joe Burrow had showed up to the Superdome wearing Jamar Chase's jersey that day. So
Yeah.
it was just a sign of great things to come. So, I mean, I thought that was, not too hard to land on. And then you had Deion Jackson filling in for Jonathan Taylor, who we talked about as kind of a value running back play. I had no interest in him because Jonathan Taylor hasn't been able to get it done with this Colts offense so far. So why would he expect Deion Jackson to, no matter how good the matchup is? And someone went the contrarian of that and got 28.1 points out of him. And then, you had Juju Smith-Schuster with the Chiefs and that predicted shootout with the Bills didn't end up going over, but still not a super contrarian play there. But Smith-Schuster ended up being under 5% owned. And then, Jalen Waddle and Brandon Ayuk were kind of the ones that were like, I never would have played them because of the quarterback situation in Miami. And just because of, how much the 49ers like to establish the run, the ceiling is so low for their receivers. So those are some really nice pivot plays, contrarian plays. But some of the other pieces of that lineup made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, this lineup kind of shows why it's so hard to win the $1 million. Likely what this guy did was he probably locked in the Joe Burrow, Alvin Kamara, bring back some version of that, like set a rule and an optimizer, cranked the variance up and set some pretty stringent ownership rules. That's how you land on a lineup like this. I highly doubt that this was hand built.
And this was the only lineup submitted by this player too. He was a
Oh my
one out of
goodness.
150, which makes me think it probably was hand built.
Okay. All right. Well, Mom, again, this is like the antithesis of the lineup that won the week before, which was like a very chalky lineup. And at the end of the day, folks, like what you want to try to do is like, yes, keep these ownerships down. Yes, keep your cumulative ownership down, keep your product ownership down, all that. But like you want a unique lineup, right? You want a unique lineup that has like, but this lineup makes a lot of sense. Remove the names, remove what you know about these players. You have a stud wide receiver that may be underpriced. That's disappointed lately, has a super high ceiling. You have a quarterback that's comfortable with feeding that wide receiver. You have multiple kind of areas where Juju Smith-Schuster's in the highest scoring game of the whole slate. Everybody's excited about playing it, but only 5% of people played Juju Smith-Schuster. That's a massive leverage spot. Like you get to get a piece of that game without feeding into the chalk. So again, like I said, this is something that would be very hard to land on. But again, that's why it won $1 million. So we'll keep at it. The Deion Jackson play, like that makes a lot of sense. Like in retrospect, it's a cheap running back that's going to see a ton of volume. The two people behind him were Philip Lindsay, who's been relegated to practice squads, and I think a special teamer. I don't even remember their name, but not a whole lot of competition there. And I think the reason why he wasn't as popular as he might have been in other weeks is we got the news late, right? The Jonathan Taylor, Naheem Hines, both of them being out was very late news. So people kind of are slow to adjust to that. And not only that, there was plenty of other cheap volume that you could get with Ramondre Stevenson, with Kenneth Walker, with a lot of these other running backs that we kind of gravitated to that were projecting better, frankly. So kudos to that person. Get him next time. Going through the player pool, obviously Josh Allen went off. That's no surprise. Tom Brady probably had like a little bit of an underwhelming game and a loss to the Steelers. Shout out to the Steelers. I'm a Steelers fan. Kyler Murray, I kind of went real heavy into this Seahawks-Arizona game and it disappointed. We saw a floor game for Kyler Murray where he did not really run the ball as much, didn't throw any touchdowns, and had multiple turnovers. Still scored 20 points, so I stand by the play. He was my most owned quarterback on the week. And it just, they didn't move the ball against the worst defense in the league. I guess that happens. In terms of quarterbacks, how do you feel with what you ran out there? What did you settle on?
Well, I mean, I had the one Joe Burrow lineup, and kind of my only saving grace at prevented me from losing all my money as I just went all in on Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. What really hurt me was, again, same with you, is that Seattle Arizona game. I had a lot of Tyler Lockett that didn't really pan out. I had a lot of Eno Benjamin that didn't pan out. So that's kind of where I fell short. I was kind of just below the cash line and the Millie Maker for most of my lineups, and the ones I did won, I was just over the cash line. And my top lineup was my one-off that I did with Joe Burrow. But I mean, yeah, kind of like what we talked about on the stream last week, Nick. Just Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs in that game against the Chiefs. My thinking was just like, if they can't get it done, I can live with that. So.
Yeah. And moving forward, I think like for me, I kind of go back and forth. Like the way I'm playing right now is I'm casting a wide net, cranking the variance up in my optimizer, and trying to like have it be chaotic within this smaller player pool that I'm pulling out, the one that I'm posting on Instagram. I do think I need to take it one step further to kind of limit the things I need to get right and find a stack like a Josh Allen to Stephon Diggs, where I don't care how popular it is. Like if I feel like it's a good stack, it's one less thing my optimizer needs to get right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Alternatively, I think I would love to kind of do that and maybe find that Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase stack, which is a version of the Josh Allen to Stephon Diggs stack, but it's not one that everyone's excited about. So I'm going to be looking out for that this week. In addition to like looking for ways to be unique on a week where I think it's going to be an interesting week. So right off the bat, like what I'm hearing, what I'm reading so far, what I'm looking at when I look at the Vegas totals is that we don't really have a lot of quarterbacks to play on this slate. I think like really one of the only ones we can feel really great about playing is Lamar Jackson with the run and pass volume. I think are the Chiefs who the Chiefs play this week. They're on the slate, but they're playing against. Let me see here. You know who they're playing against off the top of your head?
I forget. I don't think it's the best match. Is it the 49ers? I want to say
that's what it is. It's the 49ers. It's a bad matchup. It's in San Francisco. So that's kind of why people aren't as excited about Patrick Mahomes. There are 7 of the top 10 offenses are playing in the main slate. That's the Chiefs, Lions, Ravens, Raiders, Browns, Falcons, and Seahawks. Those are some top 10 scoring offenses, believe it or not. So it's interesting that I think this is a good week where a lot of people are going to think like, oh, who are we going to play at quarterback? You got to play Lamar. I think I'm going to fade Lamar for this week. I don't think I'll be on him as much as I usually am because I think he will be more popular than normal. I'm going to be really interested in playing Mahomes if he's not going to be popular.
And I think too, Nick, I'm pretty sure that 49ers defense got pretty banged up last week.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be something to monitor heading into the weekend is, how many of their starters are out, because that could be a smash spot for the Chiefs. And that could be a nice run back opportunity if Jimmy G has to throw the ball. George Kittle's really cheap this week. Not to get too in depth on the slate, but yeah, like you said, there's some opportunity plays this week with those big offenses. And we've seen how paying attention to late news can give you some leverage.
Yeah, and definitely the Browns kind of stick out to me as someone I might be targeting this week, which no one loves doing that. But the Browns are averaging, they're at Baltimore, so it's the opposite side of that game that I think a lot of people are going to gravitate towards Lamar Jackson. And if Lamar Jackson puts up a lot of points, right, and I'm on the other side of that, I can maybe bring it back with keep an eye on Mark Andrews' health. He hasn't practiced in 2 days. Isaiah likely could be like mega chalk we've never even seen before at tight end if he sits out. So keep that in mind. But I would love to play like a Mark Andrews with a Jacoby Brissett, Amari Cooper stack or something like that. David Njoku's in play. But the reason why I'm on the Browns is their implied team total is 19.5, but they're averaging more points than that. So the Browns are actually averaging 25.3 points per game. So they score points, but they're not implied. The Vegas totals, the market is not kind of keeping up with that. People don't want to admit that Jacoby Brissett is managing that offense okay. Nick Chubb is an absolute monster, and they move the ball when they need to. Shout out David Njoku, a guy I was all over preseason. So any other spots that you're keeping an eye on, any injuries, anything that you're kind of looking at as we head into week 7?
Yeah, so we talked about either last stream or the stream before, kind of running with the running back in the flex spot. I've just taken a brief look at some of the optimals today and some of the best plays. It looks like there could, like you said, because of all these good offenses and good matchups, potential high scoring games. I kind of like wide receiver in the flex spot this week. I saw a nice opportunity there. Amari Cooper being one of them against the Ravens, like you just mentioned with the Browns there. So I think wide receiver is where I'm going to be trying to really get some leverage this week. Try to get off some of the chalky plays and get into some more pivots that are close by to get some leverage there. And same with the quarterbacks and some of the optimals I ran. A lot of like Geno Smith, Derek Carr, these cheap running backs coming up to spend up higher on receivers and running backs. So I'm kind of in the same boat with you. Might try and explore the Patrick Mahomes routes or some other pivots there. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting week.
Yeah. Also, shout out to Rob. He is helping me automate the player pool so that we can get that graphic out to you more consistently, and it's less of a hassle for me. So there's no show this weekend, but we will have that at the latest on Sunday morning. I'll definitely try to get that out before I'm in that wedding this weekend. So keep an eye out for that. That will kind of have, we'll do 6 quarterbacks, we'll do 6 running backs, we'll do a dozen wide receivers, 6 tight ends, 6 defenses for you to choose from, especially if you're hand building, which is not my method of playing, but this will be the pool that I think you should be hand building from, especially if you're playing like smaller field, head-to-head stuff, 10 team entries with your buddies. Like you'll crush them if you use our pool. I truly believe that. But yeah, moving forward, let's just go ahead and dive into Showdown because I'm excited. After we hop off here, I'm going to build some lineups and see if we can right the ship here. So off the bat, I know you ran your optimal. Maybe some more tweaking is needed, but who are you seeing in the captain spot for tonight?
So I like Chris Olave. My projections like Chris Olave. The optimizer likes Chris Olave, even though the optimizer has burned me lately. We're a big believer in the process here. He has been averaging close to 11 value adjusted targets per game so far this season. He's commanding a 29% target share. Michael Thomas is out this week, so I'm not even sure who's starting. I think I did find out earlier on the radio on the way home, Andy Dalton is going to be starting tonight. So I think we're going to see a lot of looks Chris Olave's way tonight. He has, excuse me one second, dog is whining. I'm just going to let her out real quick.
No problem. But yeah, like Rob was saying, we do have Andy Dalton tonight. Andy Dalton will be starting. Jameis Winston will play if needed, I feel like, but they do want to keep him on the bench for one more week, especially with the 10-day rest coming up. But Andy Dalton will be starting, but I wouldn't be surprised like if Andy Dalton gets hurt, like we could see Jameis Winston. Not that that's important for tonight's slate, but with Andy Dalton in, like you said, like Chris Olave is demanding a target share no matter who's back there. Has Andy Dalton and Chris Olave played together yet? Did I miss that?
Yeah, I think they have.
Okay.
I think they had some good games. I don't have the stats in front of me, but also back to Chris Olave, just one stat that just really jumps off the board to me, just kind of looking at the Saints receivers, he's averaging 140 intended air yards per game. So that puts him at over 700 air yards for the season. 700 air yards for the season. And I think he might lead the league in that category. So he's going to have some opportunities here. The only thing is, I read a stat elsewhere today that Arizona has been pretty stingy against wide receiver ones, which is the only thing that's kind of leaning me against getting Chris Olave out of the captain spot if they end up shutting him down. But I think for my cash games, I am going to stick with him. But those guys like Traquan Smith or Marquez Callaway could be some nice pivots in tournament plays.
Yeah, I think Marquez Callaway is like just bad at football. I say that, and he'll probably like score a long touchdown. In my early run of projections and whatnot, I'm getting Marquez Callaway only about 17% of the time, which means he's not a favorite of the optimizer. But really getting a lot of Chris Olave. He's not in my captain spot. That is reserved for Kyler Murray, and that's mostly due to the Saints. Run defense being really, really, really good and their pass defense being really, really, really bad. Opposing passing offenses have passed more against the Saints. Tampa Bay passed more, even when they didn't have like any wide receivers. So I expect Arizona to air it out a lot. I expect Kyler Murray to be running all over the place. So he's my captain for tonight. I'm going to have a ton of him. DeAndre Hopkins makes his return, and I don't know if you saw his little like Twitter video about don't call it a comeback. It had me ready to run through a brick wall. He's been working out in what appears to be a sewer for the past 6 weeks. So he showed some signs of slowing down last year. So I'm not super optimistic. However, the video was awesome. I love the video. So go check that out. But I think he's gonna have a good game in his first game back. I think this offense desperately needs some juice, as the kids say. And DeAndre Hopkins should, in his first game back, I think he's been in shape. He should have a good game tonight. Don't fall for the Robbie Anderson trap. He's only going to get about 10 to 15 snaps. He doesn't really know the playbook yet. So I'm actually just not going to include him in my player pool at all. What are you doing with Cardinals wide receivers in general tonight?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm kind of on the opposite side of the fence as you, Nick. I'm
I
not
love
as
that.
high. I'm not as high on DeAndre Hopkins, because there is such a thing called being in football shape, right? I know DeAndre Hopkins is a professional, and he's probably been looking forward to this and working out harder than ever because he doesn't have PEDs to help him anymore. But I just don't know if he's going to hit it right off the bat. I might like him more next week. I think a lot of people might gravitate towards him because it's D-Hop. But I'm kind of more on the Rondale Moore train this week. I think he could be in a good spot this week. And also Zach Ertz with just the volume he's getting. He was someone we talked about last week who didn't pan out that well on the main slate. But, that game's got to be coming. He's leading the team in value-adjusted targets. He's got 11 value-adjusted targets per game. He's got a 22% target share. He's getting the red zone targets as well. I haven't been reeling him in for touchdowns yet. So I kind of like this game to be over, right? Because we got two dome teams. And plus, the primetime football games have been such a letdown this year that I think the football gods owe us a good one here tonight. So I'm kind of leaning more towards Zach Ertz and Rondale Moore for the Cardinals receivers this week.
Yeah, and the head-to-heads, I'm not getting DeAndre Hopkins. I am getting Rondale Moore, Chris Olave. Benjamin, I don't love that play, but I think just based on the way he's projecting and his price, he's making it into the optimal. We'll see if that changes as projections update. But I will post the optimal here before the end of the before kickoff today. But yeah, on the Saints side, you already mentioned Chris Olave. Alvin Kamara showing up for me. How do you feel about Alvin Kamara with Andy Dalton?
Yeah, I feel great with them. He showed up in my optimals. He actually kind of was leading. You got to have him in either the captain spot or the flex spot this week, I think, from the amount of volume he's getting. The only thing that worried me last week, but it worked out anyways, is just kind of the potential for Taysom Hill to be vulturing those goal line carries inside the 5, inside the 10-yard line. But I don't really think you can build a cash lineup tonight without Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that, especially because I don't think Arizona is just really all that good on defense or offense for that matter. But not a great team. But I think tonight, like you said, this game could go over with two dome teams. I know that's all probably baked into the Vegas line, whatnot, but I think like both these teams just might sling it. The limiting factor here is probably Andy Dalton. So we'll have to see kind of how it plays out. But I'm interested in kind of I'm really more on the Cardinals here on the road, or sorry, at home against a Saints team that's bringing in Andy Dalton. As far as other plays tonight, kicker, defense, not really popping up like they have been in some of these other gross games that we've been subjected to. How are you treating the defense and kicker situation? Are you excluding them from your player pool? Are you limiting to one or two total? What's going on with that?
Yeah, certainly not a week I want to play either of these positions in the captain spot. Most weeks you shouldn't, unless it's like a really low over/under. But since I like this game to go over, I'm certainly not playing any of the defenses in my cash games. I do have a little bit of Matt Prater and Will Lutz popping up because in a potentially high-scoring game, the kickers are going to be due to get some points. We've seen Will Lutz put up some bombs this year. He almost had, I think, 2 60-yard field goals in that London game. So he can sling it, and they're going to be in a dome. So I mean, the chances of them missing and the opportunities that they do get, I think, are low. So I would say, absolutely don't be afraid to play a kicker in this spot to to save some salary and spend up for the bigger dogs.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So yeah, if you were to upgrade anybody's matchup in this, do you have any matchup based? I mean, I know we mentioned like the run defense for the Saints is really good, so maybe upgrade the Cardinals wide receivers a little bit. But are there any other spots you see matchup wise that you want to take advantage of?
Well, I'm really trying to figure out what to do with the tight end situation on the Saints side because I don't think
Okay.
Adam Troutman's playing this
Mhm.
week. So I mean that leaves Jawan Johnson and Taysom Hill. And
Oh, wait a
actually,
minute. Wait a minute. Don't forget
what do you
about
get?
Nick Vannett. Nick Vannett, $200. Don't forget
Oh,
about him.
sorry, Nick Vannett. I wonder what his snap count share is this year. Um, Yeah, because I mean the Cardinals rank last in adjusted points allowed to tight ends. I have them at 32nd in the league, so there could be some opportunity there to kind of pivot off some of the other Saints wide receivers, especially since I mentioned earlier that the Cardinals have been pretty good against the wide receiver ones. So
Mhm.
I've been trying to figure out like how I want to approach that, but I think that's a matchup you could take advantage of. Um, I would lean towards Jawan Johnson because even though Taysom Hill, I have him listed as like a tight end, he hasn't really been getting a lot of tight end snaps. So
Yeah.
um, I think Jawan Johnson, I'm not sure what his salary is, to be honest.
3K. So he's priced up a little bit more than you would think,
Yeah.
especially for someone that's only projected to score around 7 points or so. But I like you said, Juwan Johnson is a former wide receiver. Shout out to Penn State. He started his college career at Penn State, transferred to Oregon, got super thick, became a tight end in the NFL, and he's got some talent. He's a pretty athletic dude. He runs a ton of routes. He hasn't really shown up in the box score in a big way yet, but he has the volume where he could. So I really like Juwan Johnson. He's showing up as like in the second or third optimal lineup that I have, projecting just under the other optimals, the first two. So I like Juwan Johnson and Taysom Hill. To me, I'm just never going to be on Taysom Hill when it's time because he's never going to project well and he's going to like run a 40-yard touchdown in and shove it down my throat. But Taysom Hill is a tight end. He's not going to project well, so he's not going to show up in a lot of my optimal stuff. His ownership is going to be way outsized for what he's going to project as because people kind of like to chase the touchdowns a little bit. So for me, I'm not going to play a whole lot of Taysom Hill. I'd rather play Juwan Johnson. So I like that take that because the Cardinals have been bad at covering the tight end since 2016. It's been like a systemic issue with them. So I think I'm going to zig while everyone else zags and play Juwan Johnson in this spot, but I wouldn't blame you for playing Taysom Hill, especially, I mean, he's just an electric player, just not a whole lot of volume. What do you think? Are you on team Juwan Johnson or team Taysom Hill?
I mean, there's a part of me that wants to play Taysom Hill in the captain spot in like a single entry GPP. I mean, just why not? I mean, because if he does go off, I mean, how many people are playing him in the captain spot? I wonder. Like you said, people could be point chasing, and then it all of a sudden does not become a positive leverage play.
Yeah.
But like you said, if we don't, he's going to jam it down our throat tonight, and run for a 40-yard touchdown, and or vulture 2 goal line carries from Alvin Kamara, and we're going to be left
Yeah.
penniless again.
Well, the main issue is to play him in the captain spot. You have to pay $10,800. It makes like I'm getting 0 of them because it's so hard to fit that in your lineup.
Yeah, I actually don't even have projections for him because I have him as I think listed as a QB, and I
Yeah,
drop all
he's
that.
definitely in my player pool. I had to check to make sure he was in my player pool because I literally have 0 of him right now.
Well, I
So
also have I have Jawan Johnson being optimal 21% of the time, and that's like that's the 7th most in the flex spot. So there you go.
yeah,
There's a nice cozy number
there we
you can
go.
use.
I mean, if I think I'm talking myself into Taysom Hill, I don't know. I'll revisit it. We'll see. I mean, that's just such a hard price tag to make work. When I mean, Chris Olave is $200 more, Zach Ertz is $200 less. Rondell Moore probably is projecting similarly better than Taysom Hill, and he is $2,000 less. It's just tough. Like sometimes you can get too cute, and Taysom Hill is like the poster child of like me thinking it's too cute and him like just completely dominating me. So we'll see how it plays out. That's kind of what we do here. We play the plays and we see what happens. So any last takes here? Any things you feel strongly about that you want to make sure that people know before we sign off today?
I think there's a little bit of question into who the wide receiver 2, 3, and 4 is going to be on New Orleans, right? I think we can all pretty much agree that's going to be Chris Olave as the wide receiver 1. But then you have Marquez Callaway, you have Traquan Smith, and you have Keith Kirkwood. In the little time that he has played, he has been getting some opportunities. He's got a weighted opportunity rating of 0.51 in the games he has played. That's the third highest among wide receivers on the slate. Of course, it's a very small sample size, but if you are trying to get different at the wide receiver position and you wanted to pivot off of Callaway or Traquan Smith, Keith Kirkwood could be a sneaky play. I think he'll be pretty low owned because I think people would expect that Callaway and Traquan Smith are probably going to get the majority of the snaps, and they probably will, but that's why it's contrarian in a pivot play. Things sneak up on you. Just look last week, Denver and the Chargers. I don't think anyone would have predicted that Melvin Gordon was going to get the fewest snaps of all the running backs there. So there's kind of your pivot super duper leverage play for this showdown slate.
Yeah. Another thing, like to me, like you could Taysom Hill captain. That's 2% ownership projected right now. That's one thing that you could maybe try. But to me, like I think Rondell Moore could have a huge game today, especially because like that pass rush might get to Kyler Murray. Those like the Rondell Moore role is like a 4-yard ADOT, and it's like he's like the outlet. You know what I mean? So similarly to like how we might want to target tight ends whenever the pass rush is a little bit might overwhelm the offensive line. I think Rondell Moore can kind of fill that role as well. And no one's going to play him in the captain spot, and you can save a lot of money, and it makes a lot of other stuff work for you. So that's interesting to me. We'll see kind of how that works out. But yeah, my big take, my stand on the table play is Rondell Moore is going to have himself a nice little game tonight, all 135 pounds of him. So that's all I got. Anything else you got for us, Rob?
Do we know who's starting for running back for the Cardinals? Is James Conner playing?
Yeah, so all indicators point towards James Conner sitting again. Just again, the short week is kind of tough for the player to get back in time. So if that changes, you'll definitely see it reflected in our optimals. But yeah, I'm not seeing anything about James Conner being active.
Okay. Tonight. Well, yeah, avoid Cardinals running back. Saints are giving up 3.6 yards per attempt allowed to RB1. So probably not a favorable spot, but. Yeah, man, I think we hit the big ones. I'm going down with the Chris Olave ship at captain. Probably Jawan Johnson somewhere in the flex spot. So build something off that. And actually, I'll post my optimal on our Twitter here in the next hour or two. So
yeah, same. It'll be on Instagram in probably 1 hour. But take care, everybody. Good luck tonight, and let us know if you have any questions on Twitter, Instagram. Check out gridironai.com. All the socials are up there. Go get them tonight. Later.